You're very welcome to this practice support information session, Women in Leadership Mentoring Program. And I'm joined today by Sonia McEntee, who's a council member here and a mentor, and Elaine Byrne, who's recently set up a practice in Antboy in County Meath and is a mentee, and with Michelle Nolan, who's head of member services here. And they're going to be discussing their experiences in the program and the benefits of being a mentor and a mentee. So without much ado, over to you, Michelle, and you're all very welcome here today.
Thank you. Thank you everybody for joining us here today. The idea behind today's programme is literally just to answer any questions that you may have in relation to the Women in Leadership Mentoring Programme. And as Justin has said, we're joined by Sonia McEntee, who is a very busy woman in it with her own practice, but has actually given her time over the last number of years as a mentor on this programme. So I'm going to start with Sonia and just literally ask you how you became involved with the programme and how you benefited from it and what you do as part of being a mentor.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. I suppose in terms of how I got involved in it, I have probably found over several years that I was informally speaking to colleagues anyway, on different things that they were doing or thinking about doing. So I think within the profession, many solicitors are like that. I think it's always possible to find someone who would give you an hour of their time, maybe here and there, if you're looking at making a change or you're looking at how you might progress or develop within your career. So when the Women in Leadership Programme started several years ago, I was asked, would I be interested in getting involved? And I was very keen on getting it, and mainly because I suppose it brought me into that a more structured format of offering myself as a mentor. It also meant that coming into a program like this allowed the development of a relationship over a period of time with a mentee, as opposed to it being maybe just a one-off call on something here and there, and really to work with someone through a plan that they might have or something that they might be thinking about. So that was what I suppose attracted me into the program. In terms of what I get from it, aside from the wide and varying experiences and listening to the wide and varying experiences that different people have in practice, it gives me a lot of reflective time, actually, for myself too, because I'm listening to how other people are approaching. It might be problems, it might be something that's much more exciting than that, an opportunity that they're looking at. And just to sit back and listen and to try to help them develop their own thoughts or ideas around whatever it is that they're looking at, provides me with a lot of reflective space as well. So, I mean, I really, really enjoy it. I really do. Yeah, really enjoy it.
You get a benefit from it as well, being the mentor.
Very much feel that I do, yeah.
Okay. I'll ask you some of the topics you might have helped with in the past, but I'm just going to ask Elaine Byrne, who is one of our recent mentees. And first of all, Elaine, how you heard about the programme and how you found the programme and how your mentoring, was it online or on site, or how did you manage that?
Thanks, Michelle. So I'm such a fan of the programme that I actually signed up for it twice. So I signed up in 2018 and then I signed up last year as well, actually. So probably 2018 was kind of for me, I suppose, it brought about the most change. So how I heard about it, just like I didn't know anybody who had done it. So it was just from the website and the e-signs and the e-bulletins. And so for me, yeah, so I suppose in 2018, so I was 10 years qualified at the time. And I was, I suppose, thinking about the next steps and the next stages. I was back from maternity leave, so I have 3 lovely little children. So I was just back from maternity leave with my youngest daughter. And yeah, I suppose just, for me, I suppose to get the views or the thoughts of somebody, I suppose, who was ahead of me, who's been there and done that. And actually just say, Sonia mentioned reflective time. And I actually, for me, that would be a big thing. I think that, we can be so focused on clients and fees and deadlines and statutes and everything, that we nearly forget maybe about ourselves. So for me, that was, and especially in 2018, that was a huge part of it, a bit of time for reflection. Okay, see where I am, where do I want to go, and how do I get there?
Okay. And did you find the matching process worked for you?
Yes. Really, I have to, is it yourself, Michelle, or whoever it is? Really, really good. And I think I mentioned it to you at one stage, like when I was given my mentor, I was like, I probably, if I'm honest, I don't know she was down in the south of the country. I don't know I hadn't heard of her. I don't know would I have picture, but it was absolutely, I said, you know, the people know me better than I know myself. It was absolutely perfect, the perfect match. And as I say, I don't think I'd necessarily, you know, I didn't realize at the time necessarily what I needed, but it was perfect.
Yeah, that's good. And actually we have a consultant who actually, we have a brand new consultant actually who's joined the program, Dorina Mulligan of Camino coaching and training. And basically prior to her joining us, Captain Slattery worked with us, and she literally matched all of the mentors to the mentees painstakingly, and then myself and herself meet and we go through each of the matches to see, do they work? Is there reasons why outside that her knowledge she may not know why they've worked, etc. So there's actually no quick fix in relation to the actual matching process. We go through everything, and based on feedback from the mentees and the mentors over the year, we've actually adapted the application forms so that there's all different types of questions in there now. What type of a mentor would you like? Would you like it somebody who challenges you, somebody who listens to you? What is it you're looking for? And all of those questions have been added to the mentoring application form, which then turns into your mentoring agreement, you know. And actually on that, can I ask, Sonia, what type of a mentor are you? Are you somebody who challenged them, or do you nurture them, or are you questioning? I mean, you know, these are the questions that our mentees have to tick. So which?
I would like to think that I do all of that, Michelle, but I think for me, it's about listening. That's just the first thing. And listening very carefully and very deeply to what's being said, and picking up on what might be nuance around what's being said as well. But I suppose the approach that I like to take is that I help someone to develop their own ideas and their own thinking. So I'm not offering solutions. You might be suggestive, I suppose, in certain ways. There might be hard knowledge that I can offer in certain respects. That's absolutely the case. Yes, I do ask challenging questions. Absolutely. I mean, why is just a key feature of what goes on. And I think that the more questions that are asked through the process and the more thinking that is done, that, you know, that'll lead to the better outcome, the better decision. And I've had, in terms of some of the mentees that I've had over the last number of years, you know, some of them I have seen take on board some of the work that we've done and bring it to life over the course of the programme. For others, it has taken a little bit longer. And for some of them, in fact, they haven't proceeded with what they thought was their plan at the outset. And that was simply down to maybe more reflection on their time. And, you know, when you look at the why, there's often the why now would be a big question. You know, what is it that's right now at this point in time in terms of going ahead with this? So I like to ask challenging questions. I think that's where the gold is.
Yes.
And but in terms of nurturing, absolutely. I mean, you want to try to encourage people along with what they believe their plan to be, yes, and what it is that they want to achieve.
And can I ask you both what format your sessions took place? Elaine, were they online or on-site or a mix of both? And what duration were they, and what duration apart were they?
Yeah, so I suppose, so in 2018, so I took calls down to the mentor's office, and then, so we met maybe every 6 weeks, and so I would call to her, and then we would have maybe a session on maybe WhatsApp or Zoom. And I suppose I do think maybe, well, I suppose we've all got much more used to Zoom, but, you know, maybe just kind of for our rapport, and I suppose maybe from a mentor's point of view, I suppose, you know, you really want to trust this person. And, you know, I think when you're signing up for the program, I think it's, for me, you know, it's important to really go for it, to get the most out of it, to really go for it. Yes. And I think, you know, to build that relationship of trust, I did find it helpful, you know, to meet the person in person. And then, yeah, we met every 6 weeks. And so I'm actually still in touch with both of my mentors. So I'd be in touch with them regularly, actually. Like, we'd be great friends, and yeah,
that's wonderful, actually. And because the time constraints, some people, when we advertised the program, didn't realize how long the relationship is, the mentoring relationship. And actually, we start advertising it in March, April. The closing date is until the end of June. We meet to match in July. We notify you in August, and then you have training in best practice in September, and then the relationship takes place over an 8-month period. So it is quite a long lead in time for somebody looking out to be mentored, etc. But I hope And I think we can see that it is worth the wait to actually get it all right and have that kind of structure around it. And you also have a mentoring agreement that you participate. Did you complete a mentoring agreement on both occasions, Elaine?
Yes, and I suppose, and actually maybe a piece of advice, I suppose, for mentees, I think, that you get as much out of it, the more that you put into it, the more that you get out of it. And, I mean, say like Sonia, the mentors, like they're giving up, they're extremely, they're extremely busy, they're giving up their free time, they're not being paid for it, they're putting aside fee earning work to do this for a random stranger. So
yes.
I think it's, really important, to get the mentoring agreement, to do everything that you can to follow the guide, to take on board the guidance,
yes.
of the mentor. And it's I think it's such a, as a mentee, it's such a wonderful thing that the mentors do, because time is so precious, but it's so extremely beneficial for the mentee, extremely beneficial.
It's usually busy women like Sonia who take it on, but actually mentors can be men or women. It's only the mentees that need to be female in this particular program that we're running. And we actually have a few men joining us this year on our books, which is actually great for the program. Just in terms of, have you any particular advice that you would give to a mentor thinking about becoming a mentor out there, Sonia?
Well, just on the time, Michelle, that is one element of it. And if I go back just for a moment to the format, I suppose, of the meetings and that sort of thing. So I've had mixed experience obviously the last 2 years, the meetings have been online, but I definitely agree with Elaine that the in-person meetings are hugely beneficial. Yes. But I'm based in Cavan and I've been matched with people who are, not city-based either. So consistently meeting in person may not be feasible. I would also, what has worked better more typically for me and in the mentoring that I've been doing is that we meet slightly less often, but perhaps for longer sessions. So, not an hour a month necessarily, but it might be every 6 or 8 weeks, and it might be an hour and a half, or it might be 2 hours if you're in person. I think some of that comes down as well to, and Elaine referenced it there, everyone has busy life. The mentees are busy in their working lives too. So from one session to the next, they need to have the opportunity to develop a little bit more the work that has been done and the thinking that they have and the planning that they're doing. And from time to time, it may be, I'm not really ready for the session that we had scheduled for the end of next week. Could we put it back? And I think, you need to be open to that as well. But so in terms of the time, what I would say to mentors is it's not as time consuming as you might imagine. Mm-hmm. All right. And you're bringing the benefit of your expertise and your experience. And in this relationship, it is very much for the mentee really to do the work, to do the work. So so there shouldn't be a lot of time that needs to go into preparation or planning ahead of meetings. But it's very much about getting to know the individual that you're working with, and it's interesting that Elaine referenced there that she's still in contact with, because I'm still in contact with people that I would have mentored as well. And you do build up a very strong professional and friendly relationship, I would say, too. So I think from a mentoring perspective, the time is probably the big question that people would have. What am I really getting involved in here? And you just walked through the program, if you like, earlier in terms of the time frame around it. So from my perspective as a mentor, aside from you asking me at the outset, am I willing to do it? I really don't hear from you then until August. Yes. Although I gather from you now, you might be asking me a few more questions about what I'm like and who I might like to be matched with. But, and then into September and the training sessions, I did participate in the training sessions the first couple of years. And they were very valuable and very worthwhile. And again, going back to my comments earlier about moving into a more structured mentoring arrangement, it allowed me to think about how I want to work with someone. How can I channel someone else towards what they want to do and get out of their way while they're doing it? So so yeah, I think the time I would recommend absolutely for someone who might be coming in for the first time that they would do the training the first time round and get the value from that. And thereafter, it's very much for yourself and the mentee to find what will work best. And frankly, you know, a half-hour catch-up on a, you know, from 1 month and then into a longer might be what works. So I think that's very flexible and there to be agreed on.
Thank you. And actually, Sonia, you've just mentioned the training there, and there is training. It was on site a number of years ago, pre-pandemic, but now the training has been divided into 2 different sessions. And when we give you the match in August time, you're given it a link to a best practice mentoring, which tells you what is required of the mentor and what's required of the mentee. And you do that before you attend your formal training session in September. And now that we're coming out of the pandemic, we have given the option of having it online and also on site. So those dates are already set in September, and people can choose to come on site in here to the Law Society to have literally just coming together of any questions you may have, going through the actual format, discussing the mentoring agreement, literally what's required of each of you to get the best out of this for yourselves. So that's basically it. And I just want to reiterate, and I know Elena said it a couple of times, but this is a complimentary free service for our members, and it's this exclusive member benefit. And the women and the men now who give their time up to be mentors don't get any pay for this, but they do get a lot of positive feedback from their mentees on it. And they actually, the wonderful evaluations we get back in, and, you know, ad hoc emails in from participants, our mentors and mentees, is absolutely wonderful. It just shows it is actually working, but it also shows that it's actually needed. So that is, and it's actually needed possibly across the profession, not just for women in leadership, which was the idea of this initially. But I think mentoring and indeed coaching is needed for a lot of us in all stages of our careers. And it's something perhaps we will look at again in the society, in our practice support. I think Justin's going to investigate an element of that, helping you with your business as opposed to just your professional and personal development. But the training, our new trainer is Dorina Mulligan, and she'll be joining us, working with me on the matching in July. And she has been so supportive in the back end, helping us promote this program. So already she is a new, fresh burst of life into this, because when Catherine Slattery decided to go into a different area of practice, we were going, how can we replace her? But thankfully, we've been very lucky with Dorina from Camino training, and she'll be in touch with all of you when we get the matching organised. So our Women in Leadership Mentoring website is being updated regularly, and you will see testimonials from both mentors and mentees on our website, and also the timeline of everything, because it isn't just a quick fix. As Sonia has said, she doesn't hear from me much throughout the year, but from the mentee's point of view, we ask you to be patient in that you submit your application now and you'll be matched in July. We'll tell you about it in August, and you have training in September. But it's just to be aware that there is a lead in time, but it's so that you get the benefit as much as possible out of the entire program. I think that's it from me. I just wanted to know from each of you if you'd have one piece of advice to a prospective mentee, actually, Sonia, or a mentor, it doesn't matter. And just, I know you're both glad you got involved, but and I think you would recommend it, but one piece of advice that you would give someone to take away from today's session.
Well, maybe I'll come in first there, Michelle. I suppose my piece of advice, and I say this to any of the mentees that I start with, is that this is about them. And that I mentioned earlier, you know, yes, it is for them to put in the time and the effort, I suppose, around the planning that they want to do. But for me as a mentor, I'll respond to whatever it is that they need to get. So what do they need to get from the programme? And I'll work with them to facilitate that. So I don't go into this with any hard and fast notions of how the relationship is going to work or how it's going to evolve over the course of the year. So it goes both at the pace and in the style that works best for the mentee. So I suppose I'd say that with a view to encouraging people to, you know, to get involved in it and to sign up for it. So
yeah, thank you, Sonia. And any last words of wisdom, Elaine?
And yeah, I suppose if there's anybody listening who hasn't signed up yet, like, absolutely sign up for it, because, you know, it's so beneficial. And I think we're so lucky, you know, to have such, you know, a good program. I don't know, do other professions or would other colleagues in other areas be willing to give up their time so freely. So I think really go for it. As I say, the more that you put into it, the more that you will get out of it. And actually the other, just Michelle mentioned just about the training, that was the other part that I found really useful. So, you know, it was on site at the time, and, you know, I suppose I got a chance to meet, I suppose, other colleagues then who were at the same stage at me and maybe, you know, kind of similar ambitions or similar ideas. And again, actually, I'd still be in touch with some of those. And even from a networking point of view, so say, like, you know, I specialize, you know, in wills and probate. So, you know, other colleagues then, you know, if they specialize in something else, I might send them work and vice versa. So it's just beneficial on so many levels.
Great. That's wonderful to hear. Thank you so much. Is there any questions in there, Justin?
No, I don't have a question at the moment, but how do I apply for the program? Is it still open?
It's still open until the 30th of June. The Women in Leadership is under the membership benefits side of the Law Society's website. And it literally, you click on an online application form for become a mentee or become a mentor. It's all in there. But if you can't find it, just email me at m.nolan@lawsociety.ie and we'll send it out to you. And any questions you have that if you didn't want to put them in the chat today, please just email us in, and myself or my colleague Shane Farrell, who's looking after the program management of the Women in Leadership program, will be very happy to assist you. And no question is too small, or the most foolish one is the one you don't ask. So we're here to help. And so are all the mentors here to help. They've actually set up a little group that they communicate with each other as well. So they're all really collegiate and looking forward to giving back to you as you climb up the ladder. We're literally lifting as we climb, going up the ladder. So thank you everybody for today.
Yeah, so we have another couple of or a few minutes if anybody wants to ask us a question on the chat. So maybe we'll just keep going for a second. Maybe just from an outside perspective, like what is the time commitment from a mentee perspective like?
A mentee, well, you see, the time commitment really is when the training, when they get matched in August time, they have a 1 hour, 1.5 hour online best practice training to do. And then in September, they come either on site to the Law Society or they do an online training session, which is about 1.5 hours to 2 hours of training. That's where the training is. And that sets you up about what you should be doing as a mentor or a mentee. And then you enter into the mentoring relationship with your mentor, and that is run over 8 months. And as the women have said here today, it's either once a month that you meet, or you might decide to meet once every 6 months for an extended period of time, or you might meet every 2 months. It's literally an agreement between yourselves. But most people find the medium of meeting is once every 6 weeks. And some people meet for an hour, others meet for 1.5 hours. So the timing is led by yourself and your mentor. There's no specific hard and fast rules, but there is a mentoring agreement that you actually both agree to sign. And as Sonia has said, and indeed Elaine, you actually, the mentor puts all what their hopes are for this particular session. So you literally will stick to your objectives and go back to those and visit those through each of the training sessions that you have, or the mentoring sessions that you have, to ensure that you're on track. Now, it's not to say that you cannot change focus, because many of them do, as indeed Sonia has said. People change their focus because when they come in, they realize, actually, I want to go in that direction. And Elaine has set up recently in practice when she hadn't thought of that perhaps in 2018, whereas with the benefit of the mentoring program and reassessing her life after 3 children, she's decided that that is the way for her to go. So it helps you, think about things in a different perspective. And somebody said recently, how often is it you get someone to listen to you for an hour? So that is wonderful too, uninterrupted, or with just with advice, or just, letting yourself speak for an hour is very unusual, and it's a blessing. So enjoy that. And as I said, it is.
So is the subject matter purely professional?
A mentee's mentor will be happier to. It is professional.
Yeah.
But
what do you think, Sonia?
Yeah. Well, the subject matter is purely professional. There's no doubt about that. But there's a bigger relationship that's created around it as well, Justin. And I mean, I suppose for any of us as professional people, the key to our success is the relationship that we generate with anyone that we're dealing with. So, it is your relationship building as well. But the subject matter is entirely professional. And Michelle did reference earlier, the types of topics that you might address. I've had some really interesting discussions around, decision making in practice when you're working with family members, or decision making and making progress in the practice where your family commitments maybe have gone beyond what you might have planned or what you might have expected, right through to a big plan that for different reasons just wasn't going to proceed. So you run the range really in terms of the topics that are addressed.
Absolutely. And actually on that, we have people who are in-house who want to move out of in-house, and we have others who want to move into in-house, and we have other people who want to become partners. So absolutely, it's so broad about what you want to get out of this. And we do our best to match the mentor with the mentee of the experience based on that mentor. And we hope every year to have more mentors available to us so that we can actually play that mix and match game. So inevitably every year we have some mentors who aren't matched, but it's not that often that we don't have lots of them left over. That sounds terrible, remaining on the panel. But it's not that they're not valuable mentors, it's that they don't match the criteria that has been specified by the mentee in this particular case. So that's
it sounds like, how could you not afford, you can't afford not to be part of this, because the opportunities that you're potentially missing out on by going through this exercise are quite big. Even in your own case, Elaine, if I'm correct. Do you want to talk a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, I agree. So
of the opportunity,
Yeah, so I think, and I suppose going back just to the reflective time that Sonia mentioned. So I think, that, well, for me, you can get caught up, in the, meeting clients' expectations and everything. And I think it's just so beneficial that if you want to, whatever, or if you want to change in some way, or if you want to progress. So in my case, I was in a practice in Meath, and I suppose we explored, different possibilities. And so I suppose since then I've kind of specialized. I've started kind of, doing a bit of radio and newspaper articles. I've set up my own practice. So for me, it has been so beneficial that I just really would recommend it to others. Yeah, and it's such a great opportunity, and it's just said, why wouldn't you go for it?
Great. And actually, we have had no one who has done it who's regretted it. Like a good workout, they say. I am told. You won't regret it when you do. You might want to do it, but yeah, you'll enjoy it.
It sounds like there's a little bit of heavy lifting involved, a little bit of reflection, a little bit of attendance at, and organising yourself, but the opportunity is much bigger and well worth the effort to put into it.
Yeah,
so
that's it.
Listen, unless anybody has anything further to add, on the 29th of June, I'm joined by Conor McLaughlin on growing a practice, so a conversation with him around how he built his practice over a period of time from Donegal. I'd like to thank Sonia McEntee for joining us today, Elaine Byrne and Michelle Nolan. So unless you guys have anything final to say, we'll close the motion.
Just to say that the Younger Members Committee have their final online session tonight at 7 p.m. You can still register for that, and that is CPD eligible, and it is all about dignity matters this evening. So if you need some CPD, please do sign up for this evening. Thank you. That's it.
Thanks,
Michelle. Thanks, guys. We'll make a recording and we'll send it out at the end of the week. Hopefully you'll join us next on the 29th of June with Conor McLaughlin for a shared conversation. So thanks everyone today for joining us. Have a good week. Sloan,
thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks everyone.